Hey, good morning. How are y'all doing? Hey, good morning. How are y'all doing? Okay. I had my I had my stream pulled up on my phone and I just heard myself echo. That's funny. I hope everybody's doing good. I can't believe it's already February. This is crazy. Hey, Jesse. How are you, honey? I don't know where my icon is. That's weird. I'm not sure. I don't know why it's not popping up on there. You're doing good? Good. I'm glad. Good morning, Scott H. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I titled the video June 2015, and I haven't really prepared extremely well for this, so I apologize in advance. But it seems like when we talk about Summer Wells and when she went missing, she was allegedly reported missing June 15th in uh, the year 2021. Did I actually mistype that on my? Did I put 2015? I think I did. I'm sorry. I'll have to go back and change that. I had that for some reason that year on my mind. But in the last video that I did, the last live, it was titled basically how Summer's disappearance was referred to as the perfect storm. And I was trying to figure out what were the events that led up to her disappearance. Why was that referred to as the perfect storm? And what were the elements of the storm, so to speak? Was it the activity that was going on in the holler? I mean, there's so many things that you can think about that could have allegedly led to one's disappearance. Family dynamics, their socioeconomic status, attributes of the parents and who they surrounded themselves with. That was one of the questions that they had asked early on in the, after Summer went missing was could trying to, in the news and law enforcement, obviously they're trying to identify any suspects in a missing child's case. And we all know that they obviously look closely at people that were closest to Summer and had those that were acquainted with her and had contact with her on a more regular basis. And that was one of the questions that they asked was, do you have any friends or acquaintances that could have done this? So in that aspect, who in the world and why? Motive, means, and opportunity. And I remember when the Gannon Stalk case was going on, and when Leticia Stout was on, when she was on trial, and when they were interviewing the investigators, when they interviewed them, they look at so many things in a case. You've got so many different directions that an investigation can go in. And basically, what were the influences that directed the investigation? And when you're looking at a missing person cases, especially a child that's reported missing, are there any witnesses available? Is there any digital evidence or CCTV that you're going to go back and look through? Because all you're relying on initially is going to be the parents or those that were in close contact with Summer that day. You're relying on their statements to tell you where they went, the time frame of the events, who all they were with, and then you're going to track that back and try to confirm that, whether it's the GPS data that's on your vehicle or camera footage from stores, restaurants, gas stations, cameras, street cameras, things like that. Are the witnesses that are around you credible? Are they telling the truth? And then, in the initial investigation where Leticia had reported Gannon missing as a runaway or something like that, there were misleading statements from her. And the detective actually said ultimately that Gannon's case was ultimately a homicide investigation, but they didn't have a standard homicide crime scene where there's evidence of a body at the scene. And so they wasted all of this seemingly precious time in the beginning looking for a child that had walked off, a possible abduction, a possible runaway. And I feel like that's comparatively similar to Summer's case and how it was presented to law enforcement. She was last seen walking outside of her home in the 100 block of Ben Hill Road in Rogersville, Tennessee. So why was there a need to, why was that presented in that way? Is what I'm trying to say. The detective said that basically it is just as important when you're trying to prove that a suspect did something wrong as it is to prove a suspect did not do something. And so I would imagine that would be very difficult in a situation like this. And especially when you're coming from like a rural area, such as where Summer was and lived. I feel like the lack of street cameras in the holler could have really affected things. And that forced law enforcement to look at whatever kind of trail camera footage that they had and what neighbors were willing to be forthcoming in handing over any of that potential evidence that showed important things, showing traffic that came in and out of that area in that month and the months maybe even preceding her disappearance. Without having cell service in such an area like that, a cell service that's reliable, we know that's very factual, not only coming from the families and the neighbors that lived in that area, but also from law enforcement, because they had to actually pay for, antennas and like an external cell carrier service to come in there and set up so that they could communicate with each other during the searches and the investigation. So with that in mind, it's concerning because if some, let's say, hypothetically speaking, if Summer was abducted, that they may not have the cell pings in that area specifically due to that reason. People can obviously turn their phones off and on and disable GPS and what have you. So I'd imagine they would have to go outside of the area to the closest cell tower in either direction and try to see if there were any vehicles that traveled throughout there in the days preceding her abduction and that day that she was allegedly reported missing, to see if there were any, and then track them down, because TBI said that they were able to do over 170 interviews with people, and that did not include, the various people that they had to call back regarding tips and things of that nature. I wonder, I know we've heard that there were some local people that had witnessed seeing Summer that day. There was a young lady that stated, I believe Nana for Life had spoken to her and said that she had saw Summer at Sonic, and she was smiling and laughing. I do wish that law enforcement would confirm or deny that. I wish that they would confirm a true positive last sighting of Summer. Was she seen on camera footage that day? I believe that, because unfortunately it has to be hearsay. And that's not saying anything negative for, against anyone. I'm just saying that I wish that law enforcement would at least give us a last time that's concrete that Summer was witnessed seeing outside of her family. When I look back at that and the horse stables, so they went to Warriors too, right, that day. And you do too, Messy Jessie. I wish they would. And I don't understand why they won't divulge any more information. Why is there no more transparency? Why? I mean, it's like there's no urgency. There has, after the initial search, the one that was so concentrated lasted, I believe, 13 days, I believe. And it trailed off after that. The sense of urgency did anyway, at least from my perspective. So you also look at, they were stated, or the parents stated that the mother stated that they had went swimming at Warriors that day where the horse stables are. So many videos, people have done there. And I do wonder if it was truthful that was Sonic before or after Warriors? Which came first? Obviously, at Warriors, there's an element of concern because Summer could have been left unattended. A baby can drown in 2 inches of bath water within 30 seconds, and a toddler. It doesn't have to be over your head. However, when you go to that park, yes, there's a shallow area that is right there at the shoreline. Hey, good morning. Remain calm. Hey, Curse with Curiosity. How are y'all doing? I'm happy y'all are here. I was just kind of going over the events that were reported on June 15th in 2021 and just talking out loud. But so, like I was saying, there's the area at the shoreline, and you've seen in the videos, there's that really big log that's kind of to the left that's fallen down. It's an old tree that's fallen down, and it's sitting out there in the water. And Summer, that video that the mother had recorded, Summer gets in the water and she's, swimming around, or she's kind of like crawling. It's what it reminded me of how I would do when you go to the beach and you'd lay down and you kind of crawl like an army crawl on your elbows. She reminded me of doing that, like when I was little, or at the lake. And And then you see her splashing around. You see H get into the water. And Summer's walking out toward that log. And that's kind of the last place that we see her. Well, seemingly she's walking out toward the deeper part of the lake. And it does go over your head. And Summer couldn't swim. At least they said that she couldn't. And I know in the video she wasn't wearing a life preserver or a floaty or, water wings. We call them water wings. So that always worried me too. You have to be so careful with a child in water, especially when even if they can swim in a lake. We always made sure the kids had on their life jackets in the lake because, well, there's undertows. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of an undertow, but that's basically like kind of like a current that forms in the water, and it can pull you under. Kids, even adults, can get cramps, get cold, have cramps, and lose their footing, things like that. Get tired, get choked, take on water. So especially in a lake, and even if you are a good swimmer, you're always supposed to wear a life preserver or a life jacket. So that always worried me. But I do wonder, I know there was kind of some questions about the last known video of Summer or the last known picture. And someone had commented that Ansley Daniels had stated that the last known video of Summer was at Warriors. But even then, law enforcement wouldn't confirm whether that was filmed on June 15th, 2021. So with all of the conflicting statements between people that were allegedly there that day, I do question if it was filmed that day. Because we also heard that David Dotson said that he was shown a video by the mom that was not at Warriors, I believe, or that the boys were there also. So which one is true? Was there intentional separation of Summer from her siblings? Did they go to Warriors that day? Were the other kids there? Because on an Unmasked interview, I heard H's mom, Allison, say she dropped them off here, meaning at her house. And she said them. She didn't say him. She said them. And so I wondered if that was H and Summer and the children, the other kids, the boys too. Or was that just H and Summer? Who all was involved that day? I'm just trying to point out some conflicting things. Romaine Combs said that. David said that. Yeah. And I believe that was on Unmasked as well. Or, yeah, I think so. When Teresa interviewed him. But I don't remember if he confirmed that it was Warriors or not. But I put a picture up on my community post of Summer. And behind her are these set of apartments. And I wondered if anybody knew where those were. Does anybody know where that was taken? They look so familiar to me. I was curious. It looked like a place in Bristol, but I'm not sure. Romaine Combs said, yeah, the Unmasked video, he said it was all of the kids. Right. Do you remember if he stated that it was taken at Warriors? He may have said he didn't know. So I'm not gonna say either way. And I believe that those videos are, unless people have clips of them, they're kind of hard to find because she had taken them down, I think, or privated them. But I'm sure law enforcement, they're aware. It's just the public. We don't know. You don't see anything posted. It was on my community post, Nana for Life. Good to see you. Hope you're doing good. And Not a Drama Nana, it's good to see you too. Thank you for coming. There was a picture I'd posted stating that I was going to go live in about 30 minutes, and it was a picture of Summer. It may be condominiums that's behind her. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. But that was just something I was curious about. And there was one thing that I can't make heads or tails of it. But I want to play it for y'all. This is a clip. Let's see. Hang on a second. It's a clip. And it's Jody Sue Brown, and she's talking about the last time she saw Summer. She was talking about how when she saw her, she was in the driveway, and Summer had gotten out of the shower, and she was wanting a towel. And I'll play you part of it, and I'll see what you guys think. What I don't understand is where she mentions talking to the oldest and how he's saying that he said, Mom, Jody Sue is right. The dogs are the key. Jody Sue is right. The dogs are the key. But how could they have that conversation that night? Because Summer was still present. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Let me play it for you. Let me know if you can hear it okay.
Somebody told me that you said the last place you'd seen Summer was getting out of the shower with Donnie.
Can you guys hear that okay? Scott said exactly. She wasn't missing. Right. So I'm hoping that she can clarify that for us. What happened there? Why that memory, trying to recall a memory of the last time you saw her, and then a conversation with someone during the same day, supposedly, that transpired, but the missing person isn't missing yet. Okay, here we go. Can y'all hear this?
No, that's not what you seen and saw. The fuck it ain't. Last time I saw that little girl was 2 nights before she went missing, and that's exactly what I saw.
Last time I saw that little girl was 2 nights before she went missing, and that's exactly what I saw.
That's exactly what I heard.
That's exactly what I heard.
She was naked as the day is long at that damn door at the...
She was naked as the day is long at that damn door. And? Top level.
And she was yelling at you for a damn towel while
She was yelling for you for a damn towel.
Oldest was out there.
While the oldest was out there.
Talking and chatting with me, and you were yelling at him because it was like Jody Sue's right about the dogs. Once again, you all keep dismissing since day one and trying to make it seem like it ain't something it is. And those fucking dogs are the key. Those dogs are the key. You want to know how I know that? Because they're partly my pups.
Did y'all hear that okay? So supposedly, Summer comes out with a towel, or comes out, had just gotten out of the shower. They're in the driveway, and she was wanting, asking for a towel. While the oldest is arguing with me, or hold on, let me go back.
It was like Jody said. She was naked as the day is long at that damn door at the top level. And she was yelling at you for a damn towel while the oldest was out there talking and chattering with me.
While the oldest was out there talking and chattering with me.
You were yelling at him because it was like Jody Sue's right.
And you were yelling at him because Jody Sue was right
about the dogs.
About the dogs.
Once again, you all keep dismissing.
Jody Sue was right about the dogs. Once again, that you all keep dismissing.
Day one and trying to make it seem like it ain't something it is. And those fucking dogs are the key. Those dogs are the key. You want to know how I know that? Because they're partly my pups. Because I'm watching in the dark as footsteps left that driveway, as gravel crunched below Dawn's heels, as I listen to boards lift up and things move around in the dark, as I watch things disappear off of my trail cams after y'all suddenly realized I had them.
Okay. Yeah, Jody Sue says she knows the dog's behaviors and they was not doing their regular routine, but she's hypervigilant. So my question is that I'm hoping she can clarify for anybody and myself is, how did that conversation take place that night when Summer wasn't even missing yet? I don't understand. Any ideas? Kathy said they were at Sonic around 2. I live local and went and asked them. Oh, you did too, Kathy? Awesome. Thanks for sharing that with me. So, do you know does anyone know if Sonic occurred after or before Warriors? Scott said, she also says she saw Summer on the 14th, which would be the day before during the Dobbs incident. After he left and everyone, the Wells, the boys, including Summer, gathered in the road. Yeah, I don't have that clip, Scott. I remember that she did say Andy in this one video that I was playing said that he saw her the day before. But I don't know in what context. Nana said after. So Sonic, okay, so they went and got a slushie afterward. CM said they were around the pharmacy at 2-ish also. So was Sonic after RX. I don't know. That's a good question, though. They're all, all those places are so close together right there in town that it would be easy to pop from one place to another, relatively quickly. But what doesn't make sense is her dropping off H. Going to Priceless first, because what you have to do is when you're traveling in town, you have to go past his home, his location, residence. You have to actually pass that up to go to the grocery store. And then you have to backtrack and go and to take him home. And then go all the way, then to go directly from there home, you're going to pass Priceless back up again. Makes no sense. So I never understood that. Nana said, yes, ma'am, Sonic was after the prescription. Okay, thank you, Nana. I don't know, y'all. It's just so mind-boggling. I don't understand it. And even tips that get reported, I wonder how seriously they're taken sometimes. Even I wonder how much effort is is actually being put into this investigation at this point. Now, I back the blue, and I have a huge respect for law enforcement and, state and federal agencies. That's not what I'm saying. But, when in poor towns and poverty-stricken areas, and you could probably classify Hawkins County as one, with funding, it and possibly pride also affecting judgment, affecting their ability to perform, thorough investigations, and then also being influenced by other factors. I just wonder how much time is being able to be put into this investigation, and at what level federal assistance comes into play, and how big of a part they actually are of assisting. I just don't know. And I think people perceptually, one thing kind of stood out to me when I was talking about the Gannon Stock investigation. The detective, when he was on the stand and he was talking about things, he was talking about, of course, Leticia's demeanor, how she acted, the things that she stated, withholding information, obviously. But they were also talking about tips that were called in. And he was talking about how much resources were wasted on bad tips that were sent in. And things that, they would try to chase down a lead that would ultimately lead to nowhere. And you wonder how many times has that happened regarding Summer Wells' case. And seeing all of the social media aspects of Summer's case, and how many videos and how many people that have spoken and talked and analyzed different things, how much of that has transpired to law enforcement and then chasing down false leads and potentially wasting just all this precious resources on inevitably nothing. And that's detracting from the truth of what really happened that day or the days before. Kathy asked, didn't McDonough say they picked up the RX around 1:30? Kathy, I don't remember. I'm not sure. Let's see. In Unmasked with Allie, she said there was a 2-hour period. Yes, I remember that. Remain calm. There was a 2-hour period that they couldn't talk about. I remember that too, and I always wondered why. What happened then that was significant, and why it was that they couldn't discuss it. Because, and thank you for putting that in the chat, because that just sparked my memory on something. So I don't know if you guys remember, but when When Don was in jail, he was incarcerated. He was on a phone call with a detective from Utah that was investigating allegations from his childhood that were brought forth by his sisters and some other people, some other women. And the detective from Utah was speaking with him, and we were able to listen to this recording. Do you guys remember that? So, in my opinion, aside from that, and aside from those allegations and that investigation, aside from those aspects, the most important thing that I heard Mr. Wells say when he was speaking to this detective, he said, he mentioned Summer and the fact that she's missing. And he said, there is a part of this investigation that we are not allowed to talk about. And when he stated that, it seemed very real to me. It seemed very raw, truthful. And there was like an element of emotion in his voice when he was speaking about that. It hurt him to say that. And to me, that seemed significant. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it seemed important to me. And it seemed truthful. Let's see. Nana said a professional LE should never be involved in an active case. Just my opinion. Yeah. Are you meaning retired? Are you talking about the retired detective, Nana? Yeah, gosh, I hate to. It's kind of hard, but I hate to be negative or I don't know what kind of word to use here, but I feel like that was, that this at the time and up till now has been an active investigation. I agree with you. Okay, thanks, Nana. And I understand that organization typically deals with cold cases, right? That's the area of expertise. So that's gosh, that's I understand where you're coming from. I do feel like there's an area of, there's an internal bias there that's very obvious. And it seemed like a desire to push a certain scenario of what could have happened that day. But it's like, let's see, Nana, you said something up here. In my opinion, everything happened the way Candace said it did until 3:10. Yeah, I don't know, I go back and forth with how I feel about that and emotions and truthfulness and their ability to be transparent versus not. Just the language that's spoken, and it's just, I don't know. I'm going to change this banner. I do feel like somebody has to know what happened to Summer. The events leading up to her disappearance, where she is, what happened. Someone has to know, obviously. And I pray that they, have conviction in their heart and that they'll come forward and tell her truth. Because obviously she deserves that. Those that love her deserve that, to know. But I do pray for her family and her friends and her church family and her neighbors. And I pray that they feel the need to come forward and not have fear for whatever reason. And if there is a fear of something happening to them, I mean, would LE not provide them some sort of protection? I'm certain they would. Whatever that entails. Hang on one second, you guys. Okay, sorry about that. Have you guys been, have any of y'all watched The Deception Detective? He has a YouTube channel. He's really good. He says that he's an attorney trained in statement analysis. He's been reviewing a lot of missing person cases, like JonBenet Ramsey. Trying to think. Of course, Summer Wells, which he kind of recently started reviewing some of the statements surrounding her case. He went over the Dr. Phil interview and the behavior panel interview. But he seems really, really knowledgeable and relatable. And the things that he says make sense. I would share his link if I knew how. But I would encourage you guys to subscribe up to him. But he said something that was really kind of resonated. Well, one of the things that kind of resonated with me pretty well. He said when law enforcement is not transparent during an investigation, a missing child case, for instance, conspiracy theories will basically just run wild. And that seems so true, especially with Summer's case. It forces you to think of all of the alternatives. And part of the reason, too, is that we don't want to think of the worst case scenario. Our heart, we kind of shield ourselves sometimes from thinking of the worst case scenarios. And part of that conspiracy theory could be kind of due to that aspect as well. But also, by law enforcement not giving you anything, at least known confirmed sighting of where she was and if she was well, people just start coming up with all sorts of stuff. And there you have the Occam's razor. theory that usually the most obvious or the most, how do you say it? The most understandable reason is the one that usually exists, something like that. I don't know the exact definition. I'm kind of paraphrasing. Hey, Outdoorsy Life. Good morning. How are you doing, honey? Hope you're doing good. But I do think that, I feel like when they had when Summer was first reported missing, they sent out the endangered child alert. There we go. There's my avatar. They sent out the endangered child alert, and then they bumped that up to the Amber Alert the next day on June 16th. And the presser was held talking about it. And that's when Leslie Earhart stated that she wouldn't state the reason for the increase, but she stated the differences between the endangered child alert versus the Amber Alert and how detrimental it was to Summer, possibly, a risk of harm or even death. So during that time frame, I'm thinking, what did they find or see or hear that led them to change that to that heightened level of alert? Was there some sort of evidence that they discovered? And that also leads me to the likely reason why most of the targeted searches have been in Beech Creek area around her home. But we don't, if they are searching other areas, it's not advertised. I don't see it. I don't know about it. Has anyone else learned of any other targeted searches that have been done in the community or in any other places? I'll tell you a little story. Curse of Curiosity said, I ordered the deception card deck. I plan on sharing so everyone can see what they look like and say. I want to get that too. It seemed really, it seemed like a really good thing to have. And you can use that. Like, you don't have to be law enforcement or even investigative reporter or, in that field to use that in your life. You could even use those tactics in your personal life or, of course, as a hobby. But it's super interesting. And it seemed, he had like FBI resources and things that he shared on that live yesterday that he had put on one of the cards. I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, wow. But I'll tell you a story. We went down the river, down the Holston River. We like to go to Laurel Run Park, and we like to go to other areas too. Bluff City. We like to float the river. We like to fish, play in the river, swim, have a picnic. And I've searched there too in different locations as well. And one day we went, and we went kind of early in the morning. Well, it's not too early. It's around, I think we got there around 10. And we were just putting the canoe in. And there were two gentlemen that were in a canoe. And I don't know what they were doing, but they looked like they could have been law enforcement searching. They had this real professional walkie-talkies, and they were like communicating with someone, and they were given their coordinates. I thought that was pretty interesting. I wanted to ask him, but I wasn't nosy enough, I guess, to figure it out. But I can't remember. I don't think the guy was armed. I couldn't see if he had a piece on him or not. Of course, they could have been with TWRA for all I know. But I do wonder if, they're doing or have done any targeted searches outside of that specific area and how involved that's been. How serious these tips are taken. If there's any coming in at this point. And will they let us know? Will they make an announcement to the public when they consider it a cold case? Because it seemed like when it was asked before, what determines when you guys decide that this is indeed a cold case investigation? And it was stated that it was pretty much according to how much information was coming in terms of tips, and if those provided any leads or not, and the amount of influx that they were seeing on a daily basis. So I would imagine at this point that there's not much coming in. Hey, Rhonda Moon, how are you? Good to see you. I'm not buying it. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. I was just kind of talking about various things regarding Summer Wells and June 15th, the days preceding her disappearance, and things about the investigation. And we're just talking about things that I've seen on YouTube that were discussed with people that were close to her. Conspiracy theories, all sorts of, just kind of a hodgepodge of everything. Nana said, I don't know if they'll ever get a message to us. The YouTube shenanigans have been a lot to deal with. Yes. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the calls that they've gotten. And you want to think in your heart of hearts that people mean well, that they have a platform and they speak publicly, that it's for a good reason. It's not for a nefarious, misdirected reason. But that's not been the case always. And you think when people hear those things and they think they have some kind of a solid tip, that some of them are actually calling it in. Even though TBI has said, and local law enforcement has said, don't call in anything that you hear from YouTube or social media. Don't call in speculative tips, only if you have solid information. Now, my other question, and I completely get that, obviously, absolutely. The question I have is, I do wonder how much they watch, or able to, or do they even pay attention to it? If when those closest to Summer speak, do they pay attention to that? That's one question I really would like to know. Because you can consider all the persons of interest, which could be a great number, right? Oh, surrounding her disappearance. A great number of people that were closest to her. And what they have told law enforcement can be totally different than what they come onto social media and say to the public. They're not sworn in, and I think I kind of touched on this on my last live. They're not under oath like in court. They've not been read their rights like you would be read from a investigator. So there's nothing really to prove, right? I mean, however, even though people can speak those things that may not be true, sometimes when people are talking, things can slip out that could be important, accidentally, unaware, the subconscious, and what your mind is thinking and what you're saying, whether it's like repetitive words that keep coming up in conversation that could lend to potentially Summer's whereabouts. And an example I'll give you is when that night that Candace had a call, she put in a call to Mary, and she was upset, and she was crying and saying that Donnie had been taken, and she was afraid they were going to hurt him and this and that. She said Boston. They took him to Boston, or he was in something like that. And so I'm thinking, out of all the cities in the entire world or the United States of America, why did that one roll off of her tongue so easily? Could that be important? I don't know. So, but just things like that, for example, and listening for common things, common words, common themes of potentially what happened, and then kind of weeding that out from potential BS. I'm not buying it, said. I'm intrigued by this case. So many theories out there. Folks just want this child found. Absolutely. The parents know what happened. Just wish they would stop deflecting. I do too. Kirst said, I think Ellie has a good idea of what transpired. It's about finding Summer now and proving what happened. I agree with you, Kirst. Nana said, I agree with you on that one. It's just putting everything together, Kirst. Rhonda Moon, I'm beginning to wonder if law enforcement is involved potentially. Oh dear. Lord, I hope not. I would think that the 911 calls could relay some information, could potentially be able to lend credence to one thing over another. I do feel like someone else put in a call other than the parents. I do wonder that, especially since it was stated that Summer was 4 and somebody else said that they called. They said we called. When we called 911. Gosh, there's so much to think about. And where you said that, Rhonda Moon, just look at what this area is dealing with in Johnson City regarding that department over there and what went on surrounding Sean Williams. It is egregious, heinous, vile actions that allowed him to continue to be a criminal. And you're seeing now in this day and age, it's like money talks and greed is so powerful. And then people fear, going to jail, that they sell their freaking souls for it. And it just goes on and on and on. I mean, thank God that the whistleblower lady, had the courage to come forward and put her foot down. Because look at what that, oh my God, I can't even think. It makes me sick, physically sick, to think about the shit that asshole got by with and continue to do and run around this town the way he did. I mean, I can imagine she would be afraid to actually say something. Truly. But thank God she did. But that's just one situation. And there's more. It exists. God. I'll never trust real, considering, yeah, I agree. A slap on the wrist. It's like, as communities, we have to be aware of these things. And how do we as a community act to stop it and prevent it and keep it from happening again? You've got to vote in good people, and you've got to have representatives, for your cities and your communities that won't be bought off. They're not involved in this corrupt bullshit that goes on. But it's like, you just don't know who somebody is truly until they're in office. They can promise you the moon and the stars, but until they're in office and you see how they act and what they stand for and what they'll help you do, you just don't know. Can they be bought off too? But this, I don't know. The things that there's more and more crime going on, especially in our community, every day. And it seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's not getting better. How do you handle that? Yeah, me too, Nana for love. Why was her work taken away if she's not found? I don't know. I don't know why they put that stipulation on there. That man that offered the first $25,000, he was pretty interesting. I think his name's David Garahan. He was an older gentleman. I actually looked him up today. He moved from Brooklyn to Kingsport, and he's written a few books. One is kind of like an autobiography about his life and poverty, going from poverty and actually being homeless. He moved to Pennsylvania, maybe New Jersey, met his wife, got married, and then moved to Kingsport. He's very elderly now, but I'm not sure what led him to offer that reward. But he did. There's a video on him, a few videos about him discussing his book and him discussing his, which his, kind of a little bit about his life story. It's interesting. I don't know. I didn't have a whole lot to talk about today. At least not. I just want to ask that one question. That was the big thing about when Jody Sue saw Summer, or reportedly saw Summer. June. That would have been what? June 13th? 2 nights before she went missing. But was also able to have a conversation with the oldest about how the dogs were the key. But that was before Summer was missing. So how did that happen? And if she could clarify that, that'd be great. I'm not buying it. Do you know where the reward fund was able to go be given to? It was given to the Child Advocacy Center. And that's the organization that they do a lot of things for children. Especially abused and neglected children. And they are the ones that assist when minors are being interviewed, like during criminal investigations, missing persons investigations. They help organize like physicians and nurses that do the exams for children who are abused. They help coordinate with psychologists, child psychologists that do interviewing of the children, and just a whole slew of other benefits. So it went to a good cause. I'm thankful for that. And it was the same Child Advocacy Center that would have helped within the Wells jurisdiction. I do wish that somebody would have came forward though and talked and stated their truth so that this wouldn't be going on 2.5 years later. And also, if there's a potential person out there that is not serving time for a crime that they committed and have potential to commit more crimes in our community, that's a whole nother aspect that needs to be confronted, and that law enforcement owes the public to know about. That's a big one. I've been rearranging this bedroom and redoing it, so I've not had as much time to come on and really prepare, for a live stream. But I do still want to talk about this case of 2 children that were abducted by their non-custodial fathers, or 4, I think it was 4 children, I'm sorry. and they were taken to a very remote area in Utah and held captive. But I wanted to go over that with you all and read some on it and show you how religion was used as a manipulative tactic to help fund these abductors and their horrible, deviant lifestyle. It's totally traumatic, but it shows how even their family was manipulated into believing them that their cause was somehow on the up and up, which it was not. It was heinous. Let's see. I'm not biased. A child advocacy may be a good cause, but by rights, it was an incentive for someone to speak out and find Summer. Surely it should have been up to the receiver to dedicate it away. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's why, well, I guess one of the reasons why they had to take it to court was to determine what they would do with it and who it would go to once absolved or once it was completed. I think they have to have time limits, or they typically will give time limits on those funds like that, and decide whether they want to continue it or complete it. But I don't know, the legalities and stuff about it. And I guess that's why the judge had to step in and make a decision. Oh, thank you, Kirst. I appreciate that. Let's see. Rhonda Moon said, I came to YouTube when Summer went missing. Every morning, I wake up and check my phone to see if there's any news about her. I go to Smiley's community page and see what happened in the night. Yeah. She'll have the dates, won't she? I thank you guys so much for coming. I've enjoyed speaking to you. And always, if you have any tips, on Summer, please call 1-800-TBI-FIND. Credible tips about her potential whereabouts or the events leading up to her abduction, her disappearance, what happened to her. You guys stay safe. Lemon, lime, and bittersweet. Hey, nice to have you. How are you doing? Welcome. I'm glad to see you. But hopefully we'll get to catch up soon. And if anything comes up, I'll let you guys know. Y'all have a good day. Much love. Mwah. Bye.